How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, those of you out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, if you go to krmg.com or the KRMG app, we'll be out there the 2 days after the election, the Thursday after the election, broadcasting live out there and then doing a listener get-together. We'd love to have you. You got to register. It's free, but you got to register. Now, I will get to Madison Square Garden and the great Democrat freakout. Oh, my gosh, are they freaking out? We will get there. But I actually want to start with something else entirely that I think is actually bigger. I'm going to play you an advertisement, and I want you to know you're not going to think this is real, but this is real. This is a real advertisement, and it is in all 7 swing states. It is in Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. This ad is running. It is running on streaming services. If you are in one of those states and you connect, to example, to Pornhub, and there's a reason I picked that one, you're going to see it. But if you're on YouTube, you're going to see it. If you're on a streaming app, you're going to see it. This is from a Democratic super PAC that supports Kamala Harris. Progress Action Fund, run by the Center for American Progress, John Podesta's group. This advertisement is targeting young men. And I want you to know I've edited the advertisement. Because the advertisement starts with a young man in bed with his cell phone held up with one hand, while with his other hand, you can clearly see him pumping up and down under the covers. And for 3 seconds, you hear someone having sexual relations. Loud female moans and groans as his hand under the covers is moving up and down. Yes, that is the image. That is the ad. And I have cut it because I didn't think it was appropriate to hear all of that. You'll hear just a very, very short snip before the guy screams as a Republican politician comes into the room. This is the Democrats' closing ad to get young men to vote for them. I'm not making this up. You're going to think I'm making it up. I had to look. It's real. It's in all 7 swing states, this advertisement.
Oh! Sorry, you can't do that.
What the hell, man? How'd you get in here?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning porn nationwide.
You can't tell me what to do. Get out of my bedroom, you creep.
I won the last election, so it's my decision. I'm just going to watch and make sure you don't finish illegally.
And it says vote November 5th. That's a real advertisement, ladies and gentlemen. That is a Democratic advertisement in all 7 swing states by one of the major super PACs supporting Kamala Harris. And then there's Michelle Obama lecturing men at her rally. If you didn't hear any of this.
That there are a lot of angry, disillusioned people out there upset with the slow pace of change. And I get it. It is reasonable to be frustrated. We all know we have a lot more work to do in this country. But to anyone out there thinking about sitting out this election or voting for Donald Trump or a third-party candidate in protest because you're fed up, let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. Are you as men prepared to look into the eyes of the women and children you love and tell them that you supported this assault on our safety? And to the women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us. We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment. And we are more than just baby-making vessels. And if you are a woman who lives in a household of men that don't listen to you or value your opinion, just remember that your vote is a private matter.
You got that, ladies and gentlemen? Women, your men have to vote exactly how you want, because who cares about their rage? Who cares about their anger? Who cares about their disappointment? They're not allowed to exercise their conscience. They have to do what you say, ladies. Men have no autonomy. They have to do what you want or else. And men, if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you are a disrespectful, sexist, bigot, racist. How dare you? They're not just baby-making vessels. You better do what they want or else. Into this comes Nick Bosa. Had a great game last night. He plays for San Francisco. He is a defensive end. He's from Florida. He played for Ohio State University. And after the game, he was on the field wearing a Make America Great Again hat. And in the press conference after it was over, the press called him out on it.
What appeared to be a political statement.
I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I think it's an important time.
Thinks it's an important time. Let me tie all this stuff together and tell you about Nick Bosa. In 2019, Nick Bosa was in his senior year in college playing for Ohio State and elected to skip his senior year and go into the NFL draft. And progressive activists tried to cancel him. Do you know why progressive activists tried to cancel Nick Bosa? Because not in 2019, but in 2014, when he was a kid, actual kid in high school, 15 years old, 15-year-old kid in high school. Nick Bosa liked some pictures of friends on Instagram. Let me tell you what these pictures were. They were pictures of friends. One of them was a boyfriend kissing his girlfriend. Another was a group of kids together. Another was of Nick Bosa. And the friend who put him on Instagram assigned a bunch of really offensive hashtags. One of the hashtags included the N-word. One of the hashtags was rape. One of the hashtags was the word anal. It was all a bunch of, it was high school boys being high school boys. And in 2019, 5 years later, progressive activists tried to destroy his career. 5 years after the fact, he was 15 years old, 14 or 15 years old. And when he's a senior in college, they tried to destroy his career because of offensive hashtags someone else put on pictures that he liked on Instagram. And because he liked some jokes they deemed vile and racist. It's no wonder he supports Donald Trump. Listen to Michelle Obama on stage. Men, if you're angry at the state of the economy, if you think it sucks you don't have a job, If you are mad as hell that you didn't get a college scholarship, but some girl did, or some transgender activist to make a political statement, and you got to pay your way through, or you can't make ends meet, tough. You've got to vote for Kamala Harris, because who cares about your life? Who cares about you? You have to do what the women want. And not just any women, the progressive women of America, because their abortion rights, their right to kill your potential child, means everything. Your job, your career, your college education, your scholarship, all of that means nothing as opposed to what progressive single women in America want. And you are a racist, homophobic bigot if you don't go along with them. And you'll be canceled just like Nick Bosa, except he wasn't canceled. He withstood the fire. You want to know why they can't get men's vote? Because they think that the way to get men is to lecture them and tell them Donald Trump is going to take away porn access for you. Their closing argument is that you want to be able to not have a date, not have a wife, not have children, but to actually get off in bed by yourself watching porn. And Donald Trump's going to stop you from doing that. That's why you need to vote for Kamala Harris. That is actually their closing argument. I can't believe that ad is real. They tell you that if you just want a good job and you want to be left alone, you want to tell jokes with your friends. Look at Tony, what's his name? Hillcliffe, who Huntcliffe, who was the comedian last night who started the Trump program. He told some jokes that weren't funny. They fell flat with the crowd. The media's making a big deal out of these Madison Square Garden jokes by him. He runs a podcast called Kill Tony. He tells race jokes, among other things. He saw a black man in the crowd and made a eating watermelon joke last night. It's stuff that the Republicans are condemning him for. But here's the thing. Do you know behind the scenes, when guys get together, they say things like this. They tell jokes like this. You may not, but most guys I know do. Black guys, white guys. You get black and white guys together, they tell really off-color racial jokes to each other. Got Morgan Wallen, who nearly got canceled, and in fact, for a time, he was taken off the air because he was caught on a video saying to a friend the N-word, but not ER on the end, just the A. A buddy of mine texted me the other day and said that in text. And I said, I don't know how I can respond to this joke, respond to this text without me getting canceled. And he's like, man, my whole family and all my friends, we talk to each other like that, and you're my friend. And it's like, well, just understand, I can't reply back because if someone ever leaked our text, I'd get canceled, but you'd probably lose your job if people do. He says, I don't care. This is the reaction we're having right now in this country is guys tell crude jokes to each other. And suddenly we've got a bunch of men who squat to pee and angry single women who can't take their sense of humor and have decided they have to conform. You're not allowed to sit down anymore and have your legs spread. Instead, you got to have your testicles crushed because you're man-spreading otherwise. And how dare you? You can't stand up and leave the seat up because that's offensive to all of humanity. And meanwhile, the women and the men now have to use the exact same bathroom, and God forbid you pee on the seat. Men are lectured, men are bullied, men are vilified, men are made the bad guy, men are heckled, men are looked down on by the former First Lady of the United States who tells them, I don't care about your rage, I don't care about your anger, I don't care about your future, I don't care about your job, I don't care about your past. You better vote the way we progressive women want you to vote, or you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, how dare you? And a lot of men are saying, screw this. I want to be able to tell jokes with my friends without losing my job. I want to talk to my friends the way we talk to each other in public, the way we talk privately. I want to be in public who I am in private. I'm tired of having to live a double life because of some humorless shrews on the left. And the way the Democrats have decided that they're going to get these men back is that they are going to lecture them. You know, there's a story in the New York Times that encapsulates all of this. Kamala Harris, her first year in the White House. I'm not making this story up. Kamala Harris, first year in the White House, gets an intelligence briefing, and you know what her concern is? Her concern is not the intelligence, but the adjective used to describe a woman. She thought it was sexist. That's right. And so what does Kamala Harris do her first year in office? She launches an overhaul on how the intelligence communities talk about women around the world. That was her big thing. Friends, this is why men are in backlash right now. They can't be who they are. The progressive women of America have decided they can't. They're going to cancel a guy like Nick Bosa for something he did when he was 15 years old. Now they're mad at him that he's a Trump supporter. They turned him into one. No grace, no charity, no sense of humor, no allowed to be different in senses of humor, and they think all you want is porn. No, you want a job. Kamala Harris was caught on a hot mic this weekend with Gretchen Whitmer saying they're deeply worried about men are not turning out for her. Of course they're not. Look at the campaign you're running against them. It's belittling, it's condemnatory, it's censorious, it lacks any sense of humor, and you're basically just telling them you have to vote your way. No, they don't. The men are in full backlash, and when this is over, you'll make them the bad guy, and they won't care because Trump will have won, and they'll go on being men, not the ones who squat to pee either. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program today, we are 8 days from the election. I'll talk about the Madison Square Garden rally next. However, just at the top of the next hour, the second hour, if you're listening live, it'll be the 1 p.m. hour. I have been working hard and talking to Democratic and Republican strategists about what they're seeing in the early voting. Over 42 million people have cast ballots now. In the state of Georgia, where I am, one of the swingiest of the swing states, 53% of the people who voted in 2020 have now already voted, which is extraordinary. Extraordinary. So what does the data say? How can it be interpreted? What do I think? When we come back at the top of the hour, I will give you an analysis talking to Democrats and Republicans, what both sides are encouraged by, what both sides are worried by, and which states are showing they're not in play. And there is the biggest thing keeping the Harris campaign up at night, and it is actually big beyond the men's vote. There is a data point that Democrats say is deeply disturbing to them. I'll talk to you about it at the top of the hour. When we come back, though, Madison Square Garden. Right now, I got to tell you, Eden Pure, the BOGO is over, but, you know, you can still get 3 of them. Save $200, get them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com, the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. You will get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. You will save, wait, no, that's not right. Eden Pure Deals, sorry. Y'all, I'm messed up. Somebody sent me a note this morning about them, and then it totally messed me up. So you go to EdenPureDeals.com, and you put in, ERIC3, ERICK3. You'll see the discount code. So you put in ERIC3, you click the submit button. It says your savings are loaded into the cart, and then you get the 3-pack, the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You get 3 of them for less than $200. You save $200. They're super compact. I keep mine in my travel bag when I go places, and it wipes out odors. It wipes out really stinky odors. There is not an odor it can't destroy. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack. You go to EdenPureDeals.com, put in discount code ERIC3, get 3 of them for less than $200, save $200. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very happy to have you with me. I want to talk about Madison Square Garden, of course. It is all the rage today, and I do mean rage when it comes to progressives. In fact, let me do something. Let me read you some of these headlines. This is from the Daily Beast. Donald Trump's racist New York City rally was vile. It was also political suicide. New York Times, Trump at the Garden, a closing carnival of grievances, misogyny, and racism. Stephen Collinson at CNN, Trump unveils the most extreme closing argument in modern presidential history. Meredith McGraw, Politico, Trump's New York homecoming sparks backlash over racist and vulgar remarks. David Kurtz, Talking Points memo, Trump's Madison Square Garden rally incited MAGA to do whatever it takes to seize power. Andrew Howard, Politico, fallout spreads from racist rhetoric at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally. Matt Wilstein, Daily Beast, Trump campaign scrambles to disavow racist MSG jokes. Okay. Couple of things here. We are in a tight election. Here's the strategy for the week. 8 days left. Here's the strategy. And this is the strategy that both campaigns deploy. This is what happens. What you do is you try to mobilize your base and find ways to stop people from voting for the other side. There are already Trump supporters out there saying if he loses, it's because it was stolen. These are the people who treat politics like sports. It's always the refs. Someone cheated. If my team loses, it's because the other side cheated and the refs were in on it. If Donald Trump loses, it's because Kamala Harris was able to get a few more percentage of women to vote than men, and she was able to keep some Hispanic voters from voting who otherwise wouldn't have. If you are not Puerto Rican, you may not know who Bad Bunny is. Bad Bunny is a very famous artist from Puerto Rico. Bad Bunny has a massive following. A friend of mine who is Puerto Rican said if you want to understand what Bad Bunny means to Puerto Rico, combine Taylor Swift and Elvis for white people in the United States, and you'll have a sense of who Bad Bunny is. Tony Hinchcliffe made his joke about Puerto Rico, saying it was an island of garbage. Within a couple of hours, Bad Bunny endorsed Kamala Harris. There are 500,000 Puerto Rican voters in Pennsylvania. If you know Puerto Ricans, one of the things you'll notice about Puerto Ricans is they are perfectly willing and able to tell jokes about Puerto Rico, but they do not like it when you, white person, tell jokes about Puerto Rico. If Donald Trump loses, it's not going to be because it was stolen. It's going to be because they decided it was a smart thing to have a guy who tells racist jokes open for Donald Trump at Madison Square Garden, as the Democrats are comparing this to a rally for Hitler, and he told the racist jokes that got people who were possibly inclined to vote for Donald Trump to stay home. Do I actually think that's going to happen? I actually don't. But you at least need to understand the argument from the other side. I actually don't think that's going to be the case. I don't actually think that the hysteria from people like Jonathan Capehart of MSNBC are going to move a needle when nothing else has moved the needle. If you want a sense of it, this is, listen to this. This is Capehart at MSNBC.
Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden comes days after his own former chief of staff went on record to describe his former boss as a fascist. But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use...
We can stop there. They're not having a normal one there. This is the rhetoric at MSNBC. You know, the Democrats had multiple Democratic National Conventions there. Franklin Roosevelt had an event there. The Democrats are intentionally tying this all to Nazism. One, they want to get Donald Trump killed. There's no doubt in my mind these people at MSNBC would hope to have Donald Trump murdered. Also, they're doing what they do with racism. They're doing what they do with racism. They're devaluing it. This was not Nazism on stage at Madison Square Garden with Donald Trump. This was nothing compared to Nazism. Nothing. And yet the Democrats can't help themselves in the same way they call everything racist. They'll call this Nazism. They'll call it Nazism because they have no better attack. They don't have any other attack that they can actually use against Donald Trump. It's just racism and Nazism, and it devalues it. And it comes at a time when there are progressive activists on the Democratic side who are hunting Jews on college campuses, who are openly saying on college campuses that Hitler got it right and someone needs to finish the job Hitler started. These are Democrats. These are progressives doing this. They want to call what happened on stage that, but they want to downplay what's happening on college campuses against across America. And that should bother all of us, in particular because of what these things actually mean, because of the Democrats' willingness to go there. They're willing to call this some level of Nazism when they're not willing to call out the violence and the anti-Semitism on their college campuses. Really should actually tell you every single thing you need to know about what's wrong with this whole setup from the Democrats and how they're proceeding. It's remarkable to me that in the United States of America, we have anti-Semitism overflowing in this country from the left. And the Democrats have instead decided that they're going to cheapen what it means for there to be Nazism in this country so that they can attack Donald Trump and his supporters. They had a complete meltdown across networks about this. And I got to play you some audio from Van Jones. Van Jones he was on Bill Maher's show. You gotta listen to this.
If progressives have a politics that says all white people are racist, all men are toxic, and all billionaires are evil, it's kind of hard to keep them on your side. And so we might want to think about, if you're chasing people out of the party, you can't be mad when they leave. And maybe if we had a different politics, we actually said dignity for everybody, everybody's respected, and we need you, more people might stay.
Wow. Remarkable. What do you think about that? I personally think there might be something to that. There might just be something to a Democratic Party that is not attacking everybody that they disagree with as some sort of racist, and yet they can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. They're unwilling to deal with what's at stake here, and people understand this. And that's why I don't actually think there's going to be this massive fallout from Donald Trump. Look, I understand the arguments of the Democrats. I actually understand the argument that says when Donald Trump has these people on stage saying some things that actually were racist, and you can't really deny it, they actually were racist, that could impact Donald Trump. The problem here is that it's not Donald Trump saying these things. And for all of the Democrats out there deeply, deeply upset about what was said, what wasn't said, what might have been said, the reality is Donald Trump didn't say any of those things. In fact, the reason they're playing up the comedian is for that very reason. Donald Trump didn't say these things. Donald Trump didn't say the things they expected Donald Trump to say. They didn't get from last night what they expected to get from Donald Trump. So they have to overplay this guy on stage. They have to play up the comedian because they can't attack Donald Trump. And that, friends, is the problem for the Democrats here. Donald Trump didn't give them what they wanted. It was going to be a coordinated attack. Listen, I got to tell you, I wrote my email this morning last night before Donald Trump had finished speaking. And I did it because I had a meeting this morning and I needed to get ready for the meeting. And that was more important than me getting up to write a fresh email. And what I said last night, I knew was going to happen. And sure enough, it's true that the Democrats were going to go overboard today, fixating on last night. Because at this point, it's about turning out their base and turning off Donald Trump's potential voters. It's what they had to do. They had to do it. And I don't think it's going to work because it's a comedian. And this gets back to what I was talking about earlier this hour, that a lot of people understand these jokes are just jokes. Maybe it hurts Donald Trump with Puerto Ricans, but I don't actually know that it will. The Democrats hope that it will, but they don't know that it will. They're doing everything they can to make it hurt. I don't know that it gets them what they want. What I do know is that they're playing up this comedian because Donald Trump didn't give them the fodder they expected. They're playing up the comedian and everyone else because they expected to get this sort of stuff from Donald Trump, and he didn't provide it for them. And I think when people see this guy, and he's referred to as a comedian, people will understand. Even the crowd there didn't find his joke about Puerto Rico very funny. Even the crowd there heckled him. Even the Trump campaign came out and said, not representative of us. It was certainly a dumb thing for the Trump campaign to have done. It was an unforced error on their part. They should have never done it. I mean, have you not watched this guy's material? This has happened in the past where you put comedians on and you clearly haven't, you're not familiar with their material. Reminds me of an old story about Strom Thurmond and Eddie Murphy. I can't really give you the details of the story. It was relayed to me by a friend of mine that Strom Thurmond, back in the day, the old South Carolina senator, was inviting Eddie Murphy to participate in a fundraiser for a children's hospital in South Carolina. His wife was so excited by it until Strom Thurmond's chief of staff told Strom Thurmond, he does jokes about kill all the white people. And then Thurmond flipped out. They had to uninvite him. Y'all, it was an unforced error by the Trump campaign to do this. It's what people are going to talk about, but I don't know that it actually matters. A week before the election, a comedian said something offensive. That's kind of why men are already voting for Donald Trump, is because they're actually kind of offended at the people getting offended by people telling offensive jokes. That's the point of the joke. I just don't know that this has the impact that the Democrats insist it must have, because the words did not come from Donald Trump himself at his rally, where he was able to generate a crowd that is ordinarily not something that you would see for a Republican politician in New York. Here's Jonathan Karl, not exactly a Trump fan.
Look, I was there for about 6 hours yesterday. First thing I've got to say, Madison Square Garden was packed. People waited hours to get in. They sat through hour after hour of this rally. They were fervent in their devotion to all things Trump. Trump has created a movement. There is no doubt. I cannot think of another Republican figure of my lifetime who could have come into a Democratic city like New York and put together anything like that.
Exactly. No one else could have come into New York, a Republican politician, and put something like that together. And that's why it's so significant a week before the election. Now, Old Glory Bank is a significant bank. I don't know if you guys have heard about all the people on the right who are getting their bank accounts closed down because they happen to be conservatives. It actually is a phenomenon. It actually is happening. It's called debanking. It's one of the reasons Old Glory Bank got started, because Old Glory Bank is a bank by conservatives for conservatives, and they're not going to cancel your bank account for being a conservative, or they're not going to, some banks won't allow you to use your debit card to buy a gun. Old Glory Bank, you can do that. They're conservatives. They're an online bank, but they're a great bank. You can even deposit cash, even though it's an online bank. They figured it out, and it works like a charm. By the way, it's my bank. I have a checking account with them. I have a savings account with them. You can develop a banker relationship with them. You can do mortgages. You can do car loans. You can do CDs. They've got great interest rates on their savings accounts. Your kid can have a custodial account there. It's a great way to start up a checking account for your kid. All you have to do is go to oldglorybank.com. OldGloryBank.com takes less than 8 minutes to get an account online with them. Great bank. OldGloryBank.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, terms and conditions apply. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan, wherever you are nationwide. If your company is growing and you're frustrated with your current lender, you need access to capital, reach out to First Liberty Building and Loan. They make their own lending decisions. They have since the 90s, and it's the same people. So you're not going to be dealing with a new person time and time again. It's going to be the same people who have been there. FirstLibertyGA.com, FirstLibertyGA.com. Tell a message. The Frost family are great people. FirstLibertyGA.com. I want to take Andre's phone call here before we jump to commercial break. Andre, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, what's happening? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I listened to the to the event yesterday, and whenever I heard the joke about Puerto Ricans, like, I closed my eyes. I was like, ooh. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I spent a lot of time in the Bronx, not just the Bronx, but the South Bronx, right? And, it's a different environment, okay? And now is a different political environment than I think I've ever thought I would see, because people down there in the South Bronx, they're not political by nature most of the time. They're just on the receiving end of these Democratic policies, and you see people just actively and vocally saying they're supporting Trump because they're done. They're through with it. And I'm talking about I'm talking about Puerto Rican, Dominican. For the first time, I don't think they're going to turn New York necessarily, but for the first time at a street level, at a gut level, that's what's happening. And it's blown my mind for months now. And
listen, Andre, I got to tell you, the data is there. And what's so amazing to me, and first of all, thanks for the call, but it's what people don't understand is it's not a majority of Hispanic voters, and it's not a majority of young black men, but it is a substantial enough minority of both that it can throw the election to Donald Trump. He doesn't need 51% of Hispanic men to vote for him. He needs 25%, and he's going to get it. He doesn't need 51% of black men to vote for him. He needs 15%, and he's probably going to exceed that, and that's going to throw the election to him. The problem with Hinchcliffe's jokes were the people who are thinking, I'm going to go vote on election day, maybe early vote this week, and, man, the Democrats are right. And I don't know that that's going to be a thing. I don't know that that's going to impact them. What I do know is that the early voting is starting to stress the Democrats out. There is one data point in particular that is starting to cause heart palpitations for Democrats, and it's not the obvious data. It's the data about places that aren't even in contention that's causing Democrats heart palpitations, and there's a growing murmur among Democrats that Donald Trump could win the popular vote. The early voting numbers can't tell us who's going to win the popular vote. They can't tell us who's going to win. But the trend lines can tell us a lot of things, and those things are starting to give the Democrats nightmares.